Okay, everyone, welcome back. This is part 3. Oh, wait a minute. I still have my air conditioner on. I was like, wait a minute, what's that noise? I still have my air conditioner on here. This is part 3 of Ask the King for May 28th, 2015. Please watch the first 2 parts. Lots of questions have been answered. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to answer the Patreon questions first because these are the people who pledged $20 or more in the month of April and wanted to have their questions answered this month, and they definitely get them answered. So I want to do that now, so that way if we run out of time or I need to cut questions out, it will not be them, okay? So let's get to their questions first. So the first Patreon question of the show is from Sammy Samosa, and he asked the following. He says, in addition to Cinnamon and Raisin, who are our pet hamsters, little Jungarian dwarf hamsters, he says, do you see yourself having a traditional pet in the future, such as a Rottweiler, German Shepherd, Bloodhound, or Pit Bull, or are you more into novelty pets such as lizards and turtles? My girlfriend Leanna is heavily into dogs. She loves dogs to death. She had a dog back when she lived with her mom in Pennsylvania that unfortunately could not come with us for multiple reasons. And we talked about it because here in this new home, you know, we wanted to live here for a little bit, get adjusted a little bit to living here and knowing exactly what that would entail before we decided to make any kind of decision on a big pet like a cat or a dog. Now, the thing is, hamsters, easy to take care of, could stay in one spot, clean the cage once a week, give them food and water every couple of days. Pretty easy to take care of. Dog, not so much. You're talking a dog is a huge commitment of time. You have to walk the dog. You have to take care of the dog, feed it, play with it, etc., etc., and it can be pretty mischievous, okay? So we decided against doing anything big like that, especially just moving here. We said, let's get accustomed to the new place. Let's get used to living in Washington and living together before we jump into this with even more difficulty with a dog or anything like that. We have discussed that in the future possibly getting a dog. Now, we like different dogs. I like cute dogs, like a little, maybe a little, what's the name of the dog that I like? A beagle, or maybe even a dachshund, something like that. She loves pugs. She loves chihuahuas. I've also thought about getting bigger dogs. The thing is, we really don't have a lot of space for a big dog. We have a house, but do you want a big dog, you know, running around a house like this versus if we had like a giant outdoor area, which we don't. We have a very small backyard, but the good thing is we have a dog park. It's not really a dog park. It's just a very small green area back there where you can walk your dog and you have to use the bathroom or whatever and pick it up. But it's actually designed to kind of like walk a dog around and play with a dog. So if we ever wanted to get a dog, we're basically set up in a place that could definitely handle it. We're not ready to make that commitment yet for a couple reasons. Number one, we still got the hamsters. We love the hamsters. We wouldn't want to get another pet that would interfere with the hamsters, okay? Number two, right now, my focus purely is on knocking down my debt, knocking down the debt from moving here, and doing my best to pay my taxes and everything. I don't want to take on another responsibility. Taking on a dog is another financial responsibility. You might have to take it to the vet. You might have to, you know, lots of food and stuff like that. And I just don't have it. It's a luxury. It's nice, but it's something that I'm not willing to invest money in right now. I'd rather pay down all of our debts before we start thinking about stuff like that. So in the long term, why don't we think about it? Yes. Right now, in the short term, the answer is no. We're not thinking about doing anything like that, but it's a possibility in the future. Okay. All right. Second question is from Woe Moses, and he asks, nowadays with the insanely hyped games, big companies are failing, underhanded means of promoting games, in-game DLC, and greedy companies going further and further just to screw the consumer. What are your thoughts on gaming these days compared to the past? What will the industry be like in the future, and will it get worse? And also coming off of that question, what do you imagine games will be like in 10, 20, or 30 years? This is a huge, over-encompassing question. Quite honestly, I can't answer it because I'm not a fortune teller. I also can't tell the future. All I could do is base off of my own experiences and my own speculation. Let's take a look. When you look at things such as the movie industry, the television industry, okay, forms of entertainment, forms of mediums that are similar to video games without the interactive aspect. When they started out, they were one thing, and then when money came into play, you started seeing things such as, you know, corruption, things as, you know, hype, things like drama for the sake of views, for the sake of ad revenue, advertisement dollars, right? Or for the sake of putting butts in seats. And it's a shame because, you know, what you used to watch on the news years ago versus what's the news today on television is a lot different. It's like I've already said on this episode, things like TMZ never existed. Now it's like the biggest fucking thing. And it's a shame. And you see with now these companies, these game companies, when games were being in the developmental stages in the 80s and 90s, right? They weren't mainstream. They weren't in every home yet. They were really vying for that place in your home. You saw original games. You saw creative games. You saw fun stuff. Now you see, oh, well, it's a financial gamble. We got to be sure to make a profit. So just make more of the same because people keep buying that. Don't take any risks or gambles. Just do the same shit. Do corrupt shit with sell a whole season pass of DLC before the game comes out. And then when the season pass DLC comes out, it's a piece of shit. But who cares? We sold it to them when the game came out. We already made our money. So why do we give a fuck if the DLC is actually good or not, right? You're seeing all these corrupt practices. This always happens with industries that become profitable. These vultures fucking come in. And it's not people who care about the artistic value of what the product is. It's not people who care about the quality of the television show or the quality of the movie or the quality of the video game. They see the fucking dollar signs in their heads, and this is it. Corrupt it all for the almighty dollar. And that's what happens. And I guarantee you, you will see development of games become more about this in the future, rather than having a robust gameplay experience that you can live and say, wow, I feel so fulfilled. Because I play. How many people do you think in the past year played games like Destiny, Titanfall, and said, man, I feel so fulfilled that I played Titanfall. It's such an original game. It's a great experience. I'll never forget it. How many people even fucking know what Titanfall is anymore? You know what I mean? Like, that's what I mean when it comes to these games. That's what's going to happen. And it's a shame because, you know, there are people out there who are creative, who really want to make good stuff. They want to be artistic. They're doing it for the sake of creativity, for the sake of art, for the sake of creating a legitimate life-changing experience for you. Those aren't the people that are going to be successful in the long run because they don't have this. You know, all these indie game developers that are striving to make great stuff, and how many of them get swept under the rug because Mr. Bigot and AAA studio with millions upon millions of dollars fooled everyone into buying a game that's a piece of stinky crap and sold you fucking 42 DLCs afterwards, you know? It's a shame. Now, let's talk about the second part. He says, where do I imagine games being in 10, 20, or 30 years? Listen, that's a silly question because I can't answer it. Let's think 30 years back. So 30 years from today was 1985. In 1985, when most people who were playing video games were looking at these little pixelated blocks going bleep and bloop on a screen, do you think anyone would say, well, in 30 years, we're going to have these incredibly interactive experiences where you're going to be playing with characters that look photorealistic on the screen, and there's going to be all kinds of narrative, but we're also going to have complexity of gameplay, hundreds of hours of gameplay in games that you buy. They'll be $60, but also we'll be able to buy expansions to the game that will add... Do you think anyone 30 years ago would have said that? No. No. Video games are an incredibly advancing technology, an incredibly advancing industry. A lot of people are questioning, have we hit the apex now? Can you really do much more with games? So what we have to say now is in 30 years, what's going to happen? I don't know. We could be right where we are now, where we kind of hit a plateau, and we're just dealing with this corporate bullshit. We could be creative utopia, the renaissance of gaming, and all this creative shit comes out. I don't know. I would like to say I'd like to see the renaissance of gaming. I would love to see... I would definitely say this console generation has seen a lot less creativity than we had in the last one. When the Xbox 360, the PS3, even to some extent the Wii, when those came out, we saw some massive creativity. We saw new genres being created. Now, not so much. What can you really say you saw on PS4 or the Wii U or the Xbox One that you haven't seen before? And the answer is almost nothing. So I hope there's more creativity. I hope we have kind of a gaming renaissance, but I don't know if it's going to happen. Okay? The final patron question, and then we can close off patron questions for this month, is from Dooley2684, who asks, hey Phil, summer is right around the corner, and I was wondering if you have a favorite vacation spot in mind. Are there any certain cities or countries you'd love to visit in the near future? Okay. Listen. The bottom line is this. Okay. The bottom line is, I would love to do stuff. In fact, if you actually... have been listening to me. I've been saying, you know, we've lived here now for about a year, and in a little less than a month, it'll be about a year that we've lived here in the state of Washington. All right. And the problem here is that I am in debt. When I moved here, I accrued a ton of debt. And I would love, right now, we've already talked this out, and we said we're going on hiatus. We're not going on any kind of vacations for a long time because we don't have the money. Sure, we could charge it all, right? We could rack it up on credit cards. But right now, we're already in a lot of that kind of debt from moving here. And I'd rather take a couple years to pay down the debt, to get it down to a reasonable amount, where it's manageable, and with the amount of money I'm making on YouTube and the supplemental income I'm getting from Patreon, that we can live here comfortably, possibly sell off that condo that I'm stuck with in Connecticut in the next couple of years without a massive loss of money, and I can be safe to the point where I can say, okay, I'm going to go on vacation, and we can afford it. Right now, I don't feel that I'm in that position. And, you know, it's kind of crazy because a lot of people say, oh, you know, Phil, he's got the life. He plays video games every day, makes a living doing it. That is true. To a major extent, you're absolutely right. But you have to really think of versus my life versus yours. How many days do you get off? Do you get weekends off? Do you get days off in between the days that you work? Do you get paid holidays? Do you get health care that's through your job? You know what I mean? I get none of that. I don't have any holidays, no days off. If I take a day off, it's a day that I don't make money and a day that I can't pay my bills. And I kind of talked about this recently on the forums when some people were like, why doesn't Phil completely learn a new setup on his PC so he can play games like The Witcher 3 on his PC? He could do it, but he would have to learn a new thing doing this. And why doesn't he get a secondary PC and do a dual PC setup? And the answer is because I don't have time. Because my time is money. And so every moment that I have to be working or working on a project or thinking towards the next thing, as it is right now, okay, as it is right now, I spend half a day not working with Leanna a week. We go out and do something on a Saturday afternoon. That's it. There's no, you know, every day I get a couple hours maybe with her, but those times are usually spent cooking, you know, cleaning. Every night we get a couple hours to relax on the couch and watch a television show or something. We don't have all this massive free time, and it's kind of weird because a lot of people say, well, you know, I work 9 to 5, right? And my job sucks, but you get weekends, right? Or if you don't get weekends, you get those days in between, paid holidays, right? We all get these national holidays. Not me. This Memorial Day, was I relaxing? I was streaming 8 hours. I actually worked more on a national holiday that most people have off in the United States than I normally would. And that's kind of my lifestyle. And I'm not complaining, right? But I'm just saying that's my life. And so right now, that is my life. I don't, like, I'm thinking in my mind, vacations? No, I'm like, that's not even my thought. Now, I'll be honest, we've talked. And the next vacation we definitely want to do is California. For multiple reasons. Number one, because we now live near California, and plane tickets to California are incredibly inexpensive. Number two, because we had so much fun in 2012 when we went to Florida. We want to try to recreate that vacation in California, only we want to do it in the LA Hollywood area. So we want to go to the Universal Studios out there. We want to walk down Hollywood Boulevard and check out Madame Tussauds Wax Museum and Ripley's Believe It or Not Museum and eat the food out there. And we just want to do a fun California-style Hollywood vacation. And it's possible, but it's just not possible right now. Because it would not be the responsible thing for us to do with us trying to pay off this debt, for me to be racking up money. California is one. We've also talked about other areas, you know, potentially in this area, possibly going down to Oregon. I know that she wants to eventually go back to Chicago, which we did a couple years ago and she really enjoyed. We talk about it from time to time. It's certainly not anything that's in the forefront of our minds because we know that we can't afford it. So, the first place on our list, California. We just don't know if or when we're going to get to that. Okay? At this point, unfortunately, I am going to skip a few questions. I'm going to go to this next one. This is a good one. This question is from, excuse me, Senhai. And Senhai asks the following. He says, hey, Phil, been a fan for a long time, and I decided to finally I had a decent question to contribute to Ask the King. I was watching your playthrough of Wolfenstein The Old Blood recently, and I noticed one video where you had a part of the title called Phil-osophical Thoughts. My question is this: would you consider discussing things like that in your playthroughs along these lines more often? It was very fun to watch and listen to, and it would drastically benefit your content. I believe always if you talked about miscellaneous things during playthroughs, it would get attention. I know one critique might be that it detracts from the game itself or it derails the immersion of the playthrough, so don't do it in games that are very immersive, but I do believe, however, that if you chose to do this, that you're a guy with plenty to say on various topics and subjects. It would definitely not hurt to do it more often, and, basically, he just says, well, will I do it more often? And let's be honest here. Let's talk about this. As I was playing Wolfenstein The New Order, I was doing one of the Easter eggs, which is playing the old classic Wolfenstein games, okay? It's interpretation of kind of a modern version of the old school. It's pixelated. It's not very fun to watch. It's fun to play, not fun to watch. As I was doing it, I said, let's talk philosophy. And I went for about 20 minutes. I talked about World War II and the Nazi Germany and people who maybe were in Germany and were part of the Nazi party and maybe were part of the Hitler movement to start. But then as they saw all the crazy stuff Hitler started to do, that maybe they were like, wow, we don't agree with this, but what do we do? Our country's now dominated by this. If we speak out against it or anything, we'll be killed. And I had this good 20, 25-minute discussion about it, okay? That's cool. The reason I did it was because I was in a boring part of the game that really there was nothing adding to the game. It was no narrative of the game. It was an Easter egg portion of the game that had nothing to do with the story, and I didn't want to distract from the game, and people were getting bored, and I wanted to occupy them. Let's say, for example, that I'm playing a game such as an RPG, and we're going across a huge field full of generic enemies, and it's going to take 15, 20 minutes to get through the field. Sure, I'll bring something up. I'll try to entertain. But you're absolutely right. I am the kind of gamer that I feel that if I'm constantly bringing up stories, I'm talking about off-topic shit in my gameplay videos, why would you tune in? Because if you want to hear about me, you watch Ask the King. If you want to watch the game, you watch the game. You know, there's opportunity to watch me and talking about this stuff. You can ask a question like that on Ask the King and I'll answer it. Versus doing it in a playthrough where it's taking away from the focus on the gameplay. A lot of people say that when I make jokes and I even talk during a playthrough, it's distracting. It ruins the story. A lot of people have always said, listen, that's always been my style, so I'm not going to completely change what I do. But at the same time, I understand that people might say, well, if you do a story like that every once in a while, it's entertaining. There are YouTubers, that's all they do. They play a game, they don't pay attention to the game, they're just talking about their life. People love it. Oh, why don't you do that, Phil? Because then why am I playing the game? Why don't I just turn off the fucking game and sit here and do it, which is what I'm doing right now and Ask the King. Get it? I'm not going to hide under the guise of, oh, it's a video game video, but then talk about other shit, because that's not what it is. You want to hear my personal life, you watch the podcast, you watch Ask the King. You want to watch gameplay, you watch my playthroughs. There will be exceptions to the rule, but for the most part, I'm not going to distract myself or to take myself away from the gameplay, because I think it is distracting to the playthrough. At least that's my personal take on it. Okay? All right, let's see here. I'm going to try to really narrow it down at this point. I apologize that some people, I did pick your questions and I'm cutting them out. There's so many good questions. You know what I mean? So many good questions. Here's a good one. Oh, here we go. People ask this one from time to time, and I want to address this one again. From Black Requiem, he says, hey, Phil, do you ever miss having an office job? And if you were guaranteed to have a paycheck of a certain amount each week, would you recommend anyone trying to go down the same path that you went down? Here's the bottom line. I never quit my office job. I never gave it up. My office job was consistent. It was safe. I knew what money I would be making every month. I knew what I'd be able to have to pay the bills. I had health care, and I knew when I had to work. That was the bottom line. And that's kind of the good thing about having a 9-to-5 kind of boring office job is it's consistent, it's dependable, and it's there for financial support all the time, and you don't have to worry about crazy shit coming up. Oh God, who knows if a bill comes up if I can pay it, right? Unfortunately, you know, you say here, oh, but would you take another job where you guaranteed to have a paycheck? That doesn't exist. People have this misconception that a 9-to-5 job at a major corporation means that it's a cozy job, a comfy job where you have tenure and you're good. It doesn't exist. The only people who have tenure, and those are teachers or professors. That's it. Any job you work at now, in America at least, in the United States, is not guaranteed. And I'm talking the lowest level service jobs, flipping burgers and making fries. I'm talking the mid-level customer service style jobs. I'm talking the upper echelon jobs. At any moment, you can get shit canned. Because in the United States, the economy tanked, and so many people out there now. There's too many people in the United States looking for employment who have college degrees like me who can't get jobs. A degree in finance, and they can't get jobs. Why? I have a degree in finance. I could do complex number crunching. I can tell you all about investments, and no one cares. Because there's too many fucking people now in the United States who need these jobs, and the jobs don't exist anymore because all the businesses went out of business. So, you know, there is no stable job in the United States. It doesn't exist. Even if right now you've worked at a job for 7 years and I like this job and I do a good job and I've got recommendations and my bosses love me and I'm on the right track, tomorrow you could get fired. Because you're expendable if you work in the United States. That's how these corporations view you. You are an asset. You are not a person. You are not a human. You don't have feelings. You are a number on a piece of paper. You are a little blip inside the database. And at any moment, they could delete that fucking blip to save their bottom line and make their quotas or do whatever they need to do to keep their company afloat. You're expendable at the expense of the corporation. And that is what corporate America is, and that's the disgustingness of corporate America. That's why there's such a huge movement in America. Don't support the giant overbloated stores. Go to the local businesses that care about the person, that care about the employees, that have relationships with them, that want them to succeed, that will give them, you know, good hours, health care. That's why you have that movement in America. If you think if the corporations took care and cared about the people, that people would not want to work for them? No. And it sucks because I had that feeling. I worked for a major corporation that was ranked, you know, on the stock market highly, you know, all these things. And when I started working for them, they were making hand over fist ridiculous amounts of money. They had the best years ever. Within 5 years, the company tanked. Within 5 years, the management was so bad within the company completely flipped on its head and started laying people off left and right, and I was one of those people, regardless of the fact that I had recommendations 2 months before I was fucking laid off saying, you've gone above and beyond the call of duty. Here is an award for doing it. Thank you so much. And then they fucking laid me off. That's the reality of corporate America. Would I ever fucking go back to it? Not unless I absolutely had to. Because I don't want to ever think that I'm fucking expendable. That what I do is worthless. That with all the years that I put into doing YouTube, that someone could say you're worthless, right? No, no one can say that. I've uploaded over 30,000 videos. I've had 6 years of my life that I've shared with everyone. I get so many overwhelmingly positive messages about people who say, thank you so much for doing what you do. You entertain us. You take our minds off crazy, nasty shit that happened in our real lives. And that means the world to me. Versus me, the 5 years that I worked at that corporation, and when they shit canned me, they basically said, fuck you, and don't let the door hit your ass on the way out. What the fuck? You know? I would much rather claw and scrape and find a way to work for myself, even though my healthcare is out of control and it's insanely expensive and I spent over $500 because my foot swelled up the last month and all this shit going on. I would much rather do that than have to be expendable. So there you go. All right, let's see. I really got to cut out a lot of these questions, and I apologize, guys. Because we're really running out of time at this point. I think we're just going to cut right to the Twitter and Facebook questions because we had a lot of them this week, and they were actually really good, okay? Okay, let's go to the Twitter questions. First Twitter question from... Oh my god, I can't pronounce that. Sorry, I can't pronounce your Twitter handle. That is really difficult. Have you thought about marriage and about starting a family? How would you mix your work on YouTube in with fatherhood? The bottom line is if I did start a family, right? If I did start a family, it would have to be cut down on YouTube. And in fact, what YouTube would be a lot less gaming and a lot more vlog style stuff where I show you, gee, what is it like to have a kid and to raise a kid and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And it would be tough because right now, as I've already said, my time is booked. A day that I don't work is a day that I don't make money and I can't pay my bills. So where am I going to get the time to raise a kid? And that's kind of it's not a predicament, I would say. It's kind of the life that I've chosen for myself. That is the balance. Because I am my own boss, because I'm not expendable, unfortunately, it means that I have to forego some stuff. And right now, I'm 33 years old. And, you know, you would think if you're early 30s, this is the time. If you're going to start thinking about having kids, this would be the time that you would think about it and do it. And right now, it's not even a blip on my radar. Because at this point, my focus is to keep the stuff going consistently, to keep a successful business, to expand the business if I can, to pay off all of my debt. And then after all that, you know, once that's settled, now I could think, okay, I sold the place in Connecticut that I don't need anymore. I don't have that dragging on me anymore. And the financial issue's over. Now maybe I could consider the next step. And I can't. I haven't even got there. You know what I mean? I'm not even at that step yet where I can start to think about having a family. I'm just not. And that is the, you know, if I'd started YouTube earlier, if I were younger when I started my YouTube career, maybe I would be in a good position. I'm not. And, you know, that's the bottom line. I'm not in a position to start thinking about a family or anything like that at this point. I may in the future, but right now it's off the table. All right. Next question is from Dark Nightmare D. Dark Nightmared, I guess. And he says, well, since you did an indie games marathon, why don't you try doing an app game marathon? If you do, please play Spider-Man Unlimited. Oh boy. The bottom line is I have a capture device for mobile devices. I have a capture device that I could play iPhone and or iPad, you know, games. I could do that. I could capture that. I could capture right now. I could start. I honestly haven't found any games on there that are anything more than time wasters. Even the games I'm playing right now, they just recently patched the MKX app. And so it finally works after a month of not working properly. It finally works properly, and all this stuff is finally working. And I'm happy about that, but at the same time, I'm like, it's a time waster. Who wants to see me? So this is how you play the app. You tap the screen, you do the super, you know. I don't think there's any app games out there that are consistently good enough that I would want to do like a playthrough of or a marathon of. Now, if people were to say, no, that's a great idea, Phil, here's 10 games that I suggest that you could play and they'd be really good for a playthrough, then I would do it. But I haven't gotten that kind of feedback yet, so we'll see. All right, it's a possibility for the future. Trust me, with Patreon, anything's possible. I'm looking for new ideas, and if an app game marathon is what people want to see, I would do it. Okay? Okay. Next. Excuse me. Next step. Next step. Next question. From Rob West 19. He says, do you think Microsoft has a chance at E3 to win back players to buy the Xbox One? First of all, I think they have. I think the past year in particular has been a good year for Microsoft. Now that they finally got the disgusting taste of Don Matrick out of the mouths of gamers, right? He's been shit-canned for a while now. And they've really had this new kind of strategy where we're going to sell our console cheaper than the PS4, or if we sell our console, we're going to bundle it with more games. Now that they've gotten rid of the Kinect from being bundled with it, the sales numbers have dramatically increased, which is what everyone fucking said to do from day one. But Don Matrick was a fucking lame-brain donkey. And they're doing a good job right now. In my opinion, yeah, Xbox One could, essentially, if they start right now coming out with exclusive games for Xbox One that are system sellers, they could now make their big move, because the negative stigma around the Xbox One is gone finally. It's been 2 years, so people aren't talking about that shit anymore, and now is the time for them to really kick it up. This year is the year. If they blow us away at E3, I could see a huge spike in Xbox One sales, people going crazy for Xbox One, but let's see, because the bottom line, what did you hear? Halo? Maybe a Fable game? You know, I've heard nothing. What is the Xbox One exclusive franchise that's going to make them the must-buy console? I've heard Zach shit. Wow. I've heard nothing. I should have just said jack shit. That's what I meant to say. I've heard nothing. Zip. And I don't know. I don't know. In that regard, honestly. What would be the game? But let's see at E3 what they do. This is their year. Now that finally the negativity's done, let's see what they can do. Okay. Next question from Meth Rollins. He says, what are your thoughts on Destination America dropping TNA and picking up Ring of Honor soon after? Do you think TNA is officially done? You know, guys and gals, I really haven't been talking about pro wrestling a lot at all recently. In fact, I haven't been watching it a lot at all recently. I used to watch everything, right? When I was doing Smart Guys consistently, you know, last year and for the years prior that we did it, I was watching TNA, I was watching Raw and SmackDown, I was watching all the wrestling pay-per-views for WWE, and TNA to some extent. Another hair in my mouth. How do I keep getting hair in my mouth while I'm talking? It doesn't even make sense. Let me get a drink of water here. Okay. So, I used to watch it all. Now I watch almost nothing. Since I moved, I'll be honest, Leanna, it's not that Leanna hates wrestling. It says she doesn't really particularly enjoy. She watches it, and when I watch wrestling, I see the camp factor of it. Wow, here's a really stupid plot line. I laugh at it. She's like, this sucks. So, you know, it's a different reaction to it. But she'll watch it, and we watch pay-per-views from time to time, and every once in a while we watch Raw. Enough so at least I can stay in the know about what's going on with current storylines and stuff with WWE, okay? TNA, I have not watched once since they left Spike TV. They were on Spike TV for several years. They basically lost their contract with Spike TV, were not renewed, and they went to this channel called Destination America earlier this year. In fact, it was January. I get that channel, and I never watched it again. At that point, I was like, they're off the mainstream channels. I really don't give a shit at this point. And you know, it's a shame because TNA, I liked the company. I like a lot of the wrestlers that are there. I just think they're a horribly managed company. And here we are now at a point where now they've been on Destination America for 5 months. Their ratings are insanely bad. like the worst they've ever had. And even though the ratings are high for Destination America, because who the fuck watches that channel? I've never even heard of it. The production cost of the television show is high. And basically Destination America leaked, they weren't supposed to, but they leaked a decision that they're getting rid of them. As of this fall, they're gone because they're too expensive of a show. And in fact, there's a bunch of advertisers who have them on the do not advertise list, meaning for whatever reason they don't like TNA, they don't like the management of the company, and therefore they refuse to advertise on the show, which means the show doesn't make ad revenues for the channel. So they're gone. They're shit canned. And now TNA doesn't even know what they're going to do anymore. And it's a big, you know, panic almost in the wrestling industry because TNA was kind of the one competitor to WWE. To make things even worse, if you didn't hear, Ring of Honor, the indie scene, there really are indie when you think about it, they are coming to Destination America. They said, well, Ring of Honor has a huge following. People from Ring of Honor are going now directly to WWE. It's kind of like the recruiting ground for WWE. And they have very low production costs, but high levels of talent. And they cost like a third of what it costs to produce TNA. Let's get them. So they're actually getting Ring of Honor to replace TNA. Wow. TNA's fucked. So his question is, what do I think? Do I think they're done? Yeah. I think that's it. Because they have nowhere else to go. TNA has nowhere else to go. They've gone from the highest level of mainstream to kind of middle of the road to bottom of the barrel, channel you never heard of. There's nowhere else to go. And I really don't think with their company being what it is, the only way they could survive is to completely downsize, to cut the fat, get rid of these high-paying guys that are requiring big paychecks, which they probably cut already. I don't know because I haven't watched in the past 5 months. They have to lower their production cost, so it can't be this big television-style thing anymore. It's going to have to change. I don't know. It's a shame because, like I said, there's so many quality guys there, and there really is no legit competition for WWE. It's just indie scene or WWE, and that's it now. It's a shame, but you got to blame the management. Dixie Carter never knew what the fuck she was doing to begin with, and now her company's tanking. Tough shit. All right, next question. From Suit-Wearing Bear, he asks, will we ever see... Oh, he says, I am a massive longtime fan. I have a question. Will we ever see the return of the mighty Drunkside-Phil? For those who don't know, there was a time, yes, it was a long time ago, but there was a time when I would drink when I was playing video games and recording. Now, this was not when I was live streaming. This was way before then. It was when I was using a camera propped up in front of my television to record my gameplay. And it didn't really matter how drunk I was. I passed out in the middle because guess what? I'm recording with a camera, right? And it was sloppy and it wasn't very professional. But some people liked it. Like some certain playthroughs, it was good. Like Fallout 3, people loved when I drank and I played the game. And I got angry at certain characters in the game. I killed certain characters just to be a dick and stuff like that, which normally I wouldn't have done if I were sober. The flip side of that is there were other playthroughs where I would drink and it didn't turn out so well. For example, Batman Arkham Asylum, there was one point in the game where I was so drunk that I couldn't figure out I needed to use my line tether thing to get from point A to point B to a new area and a new dungeon. And I spent like 45 minutes trying to figure it out, and I was so drunk I couldn't fucking see it on the screen. So there's basically kind of a dichotomy. Some people are like, we'd love to see it. And other people are like, no, don't ever do it. It could be a patron goal. You know what I'm saying? A patron goal. DrunksydePhil. One day, Phil does drunk playthroughs where I drink for that day or whatever. The thing is, though, let's be honest. My health has had some issues recently in regards to my foot and acidity levels in my body. Drinking ups the acidity levels in the human body. So if I were going to do it, it'd have to be a scheduled thing. It'd have to be a planned thing. It would be the day that I'm going to drink for like a whole week if I have a drink. You know what I mean? It would have to be a planned thing. But I don't know. It wouldn't be something that I would want to do when I was doing a main playthrough. If I'm doing a long... Oh, I'm playing, you know, I'm playing Witcher 3. No, I don't want to do a whole day of drunken gameplay of Witcher 3 because that would fuck the playthrough up. Now, if there was a game that people wanted to see me play drunk, then maybe I would. But it's not going to be like an ongoing playthrough like I used to do. So, we'll see what happens. People might say, oh, we want to do it as Patreon goals or something in the future. It's possible, but it would have to be a carefully planned thing because of my health, okay? Next question is from Dr. Zombius. He asked the following. If they really opened a theme park with live dinosaurs, would you go and would you try a Tyrannosaurus steak when you were there? Absolutely, I'd be the first in line, and of course, I'd be the one who would accidentally trip on the power cord, shut down the grid, all the fucking dinosaurs would come out, and we'd have Jurassic Park in real life, and I would love it, because I'm an asshole. Yes, I would spearhead genetic re-engineering to have dinosaurs come back. It's a silly question, and the answer is yes, I would probably do it, and I'd probably be the first to be eaten. Okay. Next question is from Finnegan Azul, and they ask, the controversial game Hatred, which you spoke about previously, is coming out on June 1st. Are you going to play it? Luckily, you stream on YouTube because Twitch has banned it. So let's talk a little bit about this. Last year, I talked about this game called Hatred. The game is designed to be a game where the only goal is to kill people for no fucking reason. There's no rhyme or reason to it. It's not that you're a terrorist and you have an underlying reason. It's not that you are in a war. It's not that you're trying to save a race or there's an invasion. No, you're just a fucking crazy lunatic with guns killing people for the sake of killing people. That's the premise of the game. I talked about this months ago, and I said I think the game is vile. I think that games should have a goal, right? When you play Grand Theft Auto, and the goal of the game is to be a criminal. Now, yeah, you could go on a killing spree. You could go on a rampage. You can do a 5-star wanted level and try to outrun the cops and kill the cops, but that's not the goal of the game. You can never win the game by doing that. That's something you can do if you choose to, but it's not a goal. This game, the goal is to just fucking kill people for the sake of killing. And of course, you'll have people, oh, but it's just virtual people or whatever. Sorry, when I play a game, when I'm playing a video game, I don't get satisfaction out of the fact that I killed someone. I just don't. If I'm playing Mortal Kombat, the fatalities are cool, but it doesn't make, wow, I played Mortal Kombat because I got to rip someone's head off and shove it up their spleen. No, I play Mortal Kombat because it's a fun competitive fighting game. I don't play Witcher 3 because every once in a while I'll get into a fight and I'll be able to behead a monster. No, I play Witcher 3 because it has a great narrative combined with fun combat gameplay, and it's a good combination of stuff. That's why I play Witcher 3. I'm not going to play a game where the goal is to kill for killing's sake. I want a narrative. I am not, when you think about it, I'm not a creature. I'm a human. I have my own conscience. I have morality in me. I'm self-aware and a sentient being. I don't need to do things for the sake of doing them because I can. Oh, a game where you can kill just because you can? That's great. Let's do it. No, I want a reason behind it. If there's no reason to do it, I don't do things in my life for no fucking reason, so I don't want to do them in a video game for no fucking reason. And therefore, I will not play Hatred. Some people have said, Phil, but you're in a unique position. You're one of the very few people on the planet that are streaming games on YouTube. Do you understand that Twitch TV has banned live streams of Hatred, and you could stream the game on June 1st, and you will probably have a gigantic stream because no one can play the game but you? And I say, fuck that. I'm not going to give the game the time of day. I'm not going to cover the game because I'm not a sick and twisted individual. I'm a sentient human with morality and a conscience, and I don't need to kill for the sake of killing because it exists. I'm not in this for a paycheck. I'm not doing this for views. Fuck that shit. I refuse to play that fucking vile game, and the game developers can shove red-hot fucking pokers up their asses because that's what they fucking deserve for making a game that's just about killing for the sake of killing. You missed the point. You're a fucking hack. There you go. Next question. From I cured it with my brain. Any idea when you're going to finally start vlogs about movies? Oops. Yeah, this was something I was talking about doing like back in February. And I was like, you know, man, I really, you know, would like to, you know, do vlogs about movies. And I have a big, vast movie collection. And I could grab a movie out of the rack and take it out and say, here's a movie. And I could talk about my experiences with that movie. And it never really happened. It never formulated because, I'll be honest, Patreon took up the time that I was going to kind of work on that kind of stuff. Plus, I was busy with new releases. It was, you know, there's lots of releases earlier on this year. I'm not saying that the series is out of the question, but if I am going to do it, I definitely need to reorganize my movie collection. Right now, my movie collection is in shambles. There's stacks of fucking movies on a window, or on a little sill thing that I have. We have, you know, it's not sorted, and it's not even in any condition where I would be able to do a good, consistent series. It's definitely something I'll look towards doing, and in fact, come the summer, since there will be less games, maybe I'll work on it, especially when I'm working on Project 7 and other stuff. Maybe that'll be one of the other things I'm thinking of, but at least thank you for reminding me, because I quite honestly hadn't even thought about it for a while, and thank you for reminding me that it exists, and that the idea is still there, and I might want to do it, okay? Next question is from SmashFan92, and he says, would you be interested in doing vlogs where you invite other popular video game YouTubers to discuss games? So I guess it would be kind of like an open table discussion. I would invite 2 or 3 other people who do gameplay on the internet and we talk about upcoming games. Sure, the problem is I can't because I can't use Skype because people dox me. I'm sorry, people DDoS me, not dox me. People DDoS attack me when I go on Skype. Isn't that nice? So I can't even do stuff on the internet with other people because of it. But plus, let's face it, I don't think anyone would want to collaborate with me anyway. I'm just saying. And then final question from GL. He asks the following. He says, would you consider going back to participating in small to mid-level tournaments when Street Fighter V is finally released? I understand this means going back to your camera setup for a couple of matches, but would you be willing to partake in these events again? It would be a great change of pace, as I'm sure other viewers would love to see you compete again. The bottom line is this, guys. If I were to play Street Fighter on a competitive level and I attended tournaments, I would not be able to record my stuff because they don't allow it anymore. All those tournaments, if you guys don't realize this anymore, don't allow it. You know, you can bring stuff and record your own matches or whatever, but for the most part, it's all live streamed, and they have the stream group is doing it, and they're recording it, and so they'll allow you to record, like, your own matches, but I wouldn't be able to cover an event like that like I used to, with a camera recording every match, because they don't allow it, and there's already these guys who are going to be live streaming. So if I were to get into the competitive Street Fighter V scene, I would just go and play. I wouldn't even record anything while I was there. And that would be it. And so I'd basically be a day without money for me. But at least I'd be getting better at Street Fighter. I don't know. But I certainly wouldn't be making any kind of a paycheck going to a Street Fighter tournament. Let's see what happens with Street Fighter V. I'm excited for it. I definitely would like to get into a game like that. Being that it is a core Street Fighter game, it probably won't have too many bullshit gimmicks. I did like Street Fighter 4, and let's face it, I did get into competitive Street Fighter 4 at least for a year or two when it was released. So I'd consider it, but it remains to be seen. When will Street Fighter 4 come out? I don't know. Or Street Fighter 5, excuse me. When will it come out? I don't know. When it comes out, will it be good? I don't know. These are all questions up in the air. We'll see what happens when it happens, all right? So, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for Ask the King for May of 2015. I want to thank you, whether you watched this live on stream or you watched it on YouTube. I apologize if I didn't get to your questions. I actually had way more questions that I ended up skipping because we just, you know, for time constraints here, I've already gone a half an hour later than I intended to. I hope that you enjoyed the show. Thanks very much. Remember, you can post your questions on the kingofhate.com forums. Right now, there's already a thread for next month's episode, which, by the way, I should mention, is not in late June. It's in early July. It's going to be Thursday, July 2nd, 2015 will be the next episode of Ask the King, simply because the last week of June is a short one, and I wouldn't want to do it the week before because that's the week that Batman Arkham City comes, or Arkham Knight comes out, and I'm going to be playing the hell out of that, I'm sure. So because of that, I wouldn't want to say, oh, I'm going to do it at the end of June, and then I get caught up in Batman. I don't do it. It's going to be the first week of July. Post up your questions. In addition, ladies and gentlemen, you can guarantee your question to be answered if you do a $20 pledge or more on my Patreon account, patreon.com/DrunksydePhil. That's why I answered those 3 Patreon questions here on the show this time, okay? That is it, everyone. I tip my hat to you. Oh, my God, my hair. I thank you for watching another fun episode of Ask the King. Peace out. And as always, I'll see you next time. Thanks for joining me, and goodbye. I have no idea what that was. All right, here we go. Goodbye, everybody. That's not the right button.